Hello, and welcome everyone to Lee and Low's Spring 2025 Seasonal Showcase. We are excited to share what's new in picture books through young adult novels from your favorite independent multicultural children's publisher. Our books are about everyone for everyone. My name is Shaughnessy Miller. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the assistant marketing manager. I am a white woman with blue eyes and long, wavy brown hair. I'm wearing a black turtleneck and I have a white ceiling in my background. Speaking alongside me today are my excellent colleagues, Elise, Jen, Candace, and Stephanie, and they'll introduce themselves as we move through our presentation. We're excited to hear from our special guest creators, Cheryl Roz Thursday, illustrator for Edie for Equality, and Kim Topping, author of Generation Queer. And they will share about their forthcoming books, the inspiration behind the story, the work they put into making it a reality, and of course, what they hope young readers will take from it after reading. We're also very grateful to be joined today by talented ASL interpreters, David Canas from Sign Nexus and Travis Hagler. You can enable closed captioning on your screen. In the Zoom meeting control bar, click the Show Captions icon. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. And the audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. Simply find the Q&A button in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen and type your questions into the box that appears. Links to today's slide presentation and title list are in the reminder email you received from Zoom before the webinar. They are also linked on our open book blog. Head over to Edelweiss to request access to digital review copies for all of today's titles as well. And live attendees of today's virtual presentation will automatically be entered into a sweepstakes for a chance to win a set of advanced reader copies or ARCs of our Spring 25 middle grade and young adult novels. 25 lucky winners will be selected at random, so thank you all for tuning in. Looking for resources to create lesson plans, guides, student reading, and select diverse texts for your shelves? We've got you covered. Our literacy team of former classroom educators takes care to create detailed cross-curricular teachers' guides and thematic lists to make it easy for you to incorporate any Lee and Low title into your classroom or library. As we celebrate Hispanic and Latina Heritage Month, we would like to call out our authentic Spanish books list in particular. Check out these high-quality bilingual and Spanish texts that will affirm readers' identity while establishing solid foundation for multilingual learners. Bookmark leeandlow.com or visit our page at Share My Lesson and Teachers Pay Teachers to download these resources for free. Next month, we will have a webinar with Reading is Fundamental as part of their Every Book Counts series. We hope you'll join us on Wednesday, October 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, for Every Book is a Multilingual Learner book. During this presentation, our colleague and senior literacy manager, Katie Potter, will model how to engage multilingual learners and multilingual students in interactive read-alouds and help them develop their language skills. We are the home to Bebop Books, Lee and Low's exclusive line of books for emerging readers. Mas Piñata is an imprint of Bebop Books that offers rich, culturally relevant stories in Spanish and English that support meaningful literacy development and guided reading in biliteracy settings. We have many free resources to support the use of Bebop Books with your students, like teacher's guides, as well as our recent webinar, Wonder, Knowledge, and Joy in Early Literacy, with Mas Piñata creator and bilingual educator, Dr. Barbara Flores. And now I'll turn it over to Stephanie to kick us off with what's new in picture books. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Shaughnessy. My name is Stephanie Frescos Macias. I am an assistant editor at Lee and Low, and my pronouns are she, her. I am a tan Mexican woman with short black hair, and I have a white bookshelf and some art in my background. So, this coming spring, we have picture books filled with celebrations of nature and love. Bird lovers, in particular, will be really thrilled with our selection this season. Kicking off with the paperback edition of of our most awarded books, Parrots Over Puerto Rico, written by Susan L. Roth and Cindy Trumbore, and illustrated by Susan L. Roth. Let's take a look at the soaring account of the Puerto Rican parrot and the inspiring work of scientists to keep them safe from extinction. This is a meticulously researched and well-rounded look at the story of the Puerto Rican parrot. Through masterful storytelling, Roth and Trumbore managed to cover everything from characteristics and behaviors of the birds to thousands of years of Puerto Rican history, including the more recent developments and deforestation that's brought the parrots to the brink of extinction, down to only 13 birds in the wild at one point. But finally, we see the pioneering and dedicated conservation efforts that has slowly but surely brought their numbers back up. If the fascinating story of these parrots and their home island weren't enough, Roth's illustrations, as you can see, are also awe-inspiring all on their own. Her paper and fabric collage illustrations perfectly capture the tactile, lush energy of bright feathers and vibrant treetops. Excuse me. And afterward includes beautiful photographs, a helpful timeline, and the author's sources. Any lovers of wildlife, Puerto Rico, or beautiful art can pick up the paperback edition of this book on January 21st, 2025. And a Spanish edition is available now. Next up, my colleague Candice has even more feathered fun with you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Candice Costin, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a brown-skinned woman with dark hair, and I'm wearing a black sweater. The background behind me is a white bookcase. I'm an editor at Lee and Low Books. I'm excited to share with you our spring 2025 title, Tocamos, Mexican Folk Art Music Makers in English and Spanish, written by Cynthia Weil with artwork by Avelino Perez. Tocamos is the latest book in Cynthia's beloved Mexican folk art series. A flock of feathered musicians are putting on a concert. Each spread shows a bird bringing their instrument. A crow totes a trombone, a rooster brings a double bass, and a macaw carries an accordion. Once the ensemble is assembled, the music begins. Featuring vibrant wood carvings and rhythmic text that's fun to read aloud in both English and Spanish, Tocamos introduces children to many of the orchestral instruments played at concerts in Mexican town squares. Each bird was lovingly hand-carved and painted by master woodcarver Avelino Perez, who lives in Oaxaca, Mexico. Author Cynthia Weil worked closely with Avelino to create this fun and vibrant story for young readers. Next up is A Sky That Sings, written by Anita Sanchez and George Steele, and illustrated by Emily Mendoza. This is the story of a girl who is blind and enjoys identifying different types of birds by their calls and songs. Some people call it bird watching, but Mia, our main character, calls it bird listening. It's a sunny spring afternoon and Mia is at the park with her aunt. At first, Mia's aunt doesn't know what to expect when it comes to bird listening, but with Mia's guidance, she learns to enjoy the bright melodies pouring from the sky. Their park adventure will take them past a lively pond, through the hush of the quiet woods, and up a breezy hilltop for a soaring encounter with Mia's favorite bird of all. Mia is adventurous and knowledgeable. She navigates the world independently and is often leading the way for her aunt through the illustrations. Author Anita Sanchez is a nonfiction writer and drew inspiration for this slice of life story from her many, many years of experience as an environmental educator. She's worked with students who are blind, leading them on nature walks and teaching them about natural history and environmental science. Young readers will learn about a wide variety of birds that are common to many areas in the United States, and back matter includes an author's note with more information about bird listening. Definitely check out A Sky That Sings when it flies onto shelves March 18th, 2025. And now back to Stephanie.
Thank you, Candace. And now we're hopping over from some singing birds to a trickster rabbit. We're thrilled to be bringing back a picture book of an old Choctaw tale, Chukfi Rabbit's Big Bad Bellyache, written by the late Greg Rogers and illustrated by Leslie Stahl-Widener. This book was originally published by our Cinco Puntos Press imprint in 2014, after the author found the story in the depths of microfilm at the Oklahoma History Center. So we're very proud to be bringing this book back and help share the story with new generations. Chukfi Rabbit is the classic trickster figure we all love to wag a finger at, constantly in the middle of schemes to hoard treats for himself and to get out of helping his friends. Both the text and illustrations are playful and perfect for a read aloud. Rogers tells the tale with the lighthearted humor and fun rhythms of a master storyteller, and Stahl-Widener's illustrations depict expressive animals in sweetly soft colors. Both author and illustrator are enrolled members of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and their work is a lovely document of various elements of Choctaw culture. Rogers shared the Choctaw names for various animals, like Chukfi for rabbit, Nita bear, and Luxie turtle. Stahl-Widener dressed the animal friends in a mix of traditional and contemporary Choctaw clothes. A brief author's note gives some context into the story, as well as Choctaw history. This great fun book will be back on shelves March 11, 2025. And next up, we're meeting a joyful young girl who's proud of her parents' work in a rose farm in Ecuador. Roses for Isabella was written by Diana Cohn and illustrated by Amy Cordova Boone. This was originally published in 2011 by Steiner Books, and we're thrilled to be its new home. We're also publishing the first Spanish edition, Rosas para Isabella, simultaneously with our English edition. On the surface, this is a simple story of a young girl sharing poems about her parents' experience working in a rose farm, but it's also a great story of appreciating farm work, and it can help introduce the concept of labor rights, since her parents have a much better experience working in a farm that has protections for its workers. Author Diana Cohn has a long history of labor rights advocacy, and she worked closely with the Fair Trade USA organization as she developed this lovely book. Besides working with organizers in the US, both she and illustrator Cordova Boone visited a fair trade certified farm in Ecuador, and they got to know farmers and organizers on the ground. The afterword, written by a former Fair Trade USA vice president, Lynn Lohr, gives some context on what kind of worker environmental protections fair trade looks for when they give their certification. We're also very excited to be making this available in Spanish for the first time. We're very fortunate to work with a translator from Ecuador, excuse me, and readers of both English and Spanish editions will get to see lovely symbols of Ecuadorian culture in the vibrant illustrations. You can pluck roses and rosas from shelves on April 8, 2025. And next up, we have a special treat of hearing from illustrator Cheryl Ross Tuesday. Cheryl's illustrations have been praised for their bold colors, shapes, and textures, so we're thrilled that she added her unique flair to our forthcoming picture book biography, Edie for Equality, written by Michael Genhart. Edie for Equality shares the life of Edie Windsor, who learned to embrace herself as a lesbian woman and eventually went on to the Supreme Court to fight for the U.S. to treat her fairly, paving the way for the legalization of gay marriage. This book will be available May 2025. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. Please take it away.
Thank you for having me. Hey everyone, my name is Cheryl Ross Tuesday. My pronouns are she and her. I am a Jamaican Chinese woman with long black brown locks in a high bun. I'm wearing a blue jeans shirt and green pants. And I have frames. My glasses are gold. I am an editorial picture book illustrator based in Brooklyn, New York. I've been creating editorial illustrations for several years for various newspapers and magazines, but it wasn't until 2022 that I burst onto the children's book illustration scene. I'm super excited to be here to share this wonderful, important book, Edie for Equality. Edie Windsor Stands Up for Love, written by Michael Genhart, illustrated by me, scheduled to be released May 20th, 2025. This is a biography picture book about Edie Windsor and her fight for marriage equality, the injustice that she encountered, and standing up for what is right. Edie fought against the Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA. For those who don't know, essentially, the Defense of Marriage Act was a federal law that passed in 1996 that defined marriage as a union between one man and one woman and denied federal recognition of same-sex marriage. Edie led the case against the United States after she was forced to pay over $363,000 in estate taxes after her same-sex spouse, Thea Spider, her partner of 40 years, died, which became a historical Supreme Court case known as United States versus Windsor. It is through Edie's resiliency that she won, and because of her that today it gives us so much meaning to love is love and equals equal. So when I was first approached to illustrate this story, I was over the moon. Edie Windsor is not only a prolific activist for the LGBTQ plus community, she championed marriage equality. She is the reason why I am able to marry my partner and that so many of my friends are in legal marriages now as well. It basically took me 2.5 seconds to say yes. I felt honored and privileged to be a part of this project, not only because of who she was, but there's not one picture book about her or her accomplishments that I knew of. So to be the first to illustrate her story meant everything to me. With that being said, there was so much research that had to be done. I had to find pictures of Edie as a child, which I could only find one, to her being a young adult, to when she first started dating Thea, then to their later years. It was a team effort. Michael, the author, the art director, myself collected these images. There is such a contrast between illustrating a fiction book versus a nonfiction book. With a fiction book, you're using your imagination. You're inspired by photos, and you glance by, you're glancing these photos, and you're inspired by your surroundings. However, with Edie, I had to stick with the facts. Edie was born in the 30s, in which girls were not allowed to wear pants back then. And I remember one of the images that I first drew of her, she had pants, which is a big no-no. Another example, in one of the scenes in the book of Robbie Kaplan, which is Edie's lawyer, speaks to Supreme Court justices. There, I had to ensure that the judges were sitting precisely in the correct seats on that historic day, that the expressions matched up to that photo. Furthermore, I had to create images of Edie's life journey through a broad time period, which started in the 1930s to the 60s to the 80s, and finally the 2000s. In the beginning, it wasn't easy to illustrate this book because I wanted to experiment and go wild as much as I could. I'm a vibrant, colorful person who sometimes like to exaggerate illustrations. Sometimes I couldn't do that, but I found a way to test my wildness in several particular scenes by applying those bright colors into the fashion from those eras, into her wardrobe and background scenes. I mean, this book is a labor of love. I love this book because it truly challenged me as an artist. There were instances that I had to rework Edie multiple times in different eras to get her just right. For example, the very first page depicts Edie playing a harmonica. Here I drew 3 versions of her in various sketch phases. And it actually took a couple more reworking phrases to accomplish the final. I think sometimes the readers don't know how much goes into perfecting a scene, how much the illustrator goes through that stage of doubt. Like, am I capable of doing this? You know, especially for me, because I just arrived on the picture book scene 3 years ago. But in these moments, you learn it's a process, and you have to believe in what you're doing and trust the people who are assisting you to create the best illustration possible. John Candle, the art director, who was amazing, and he gently assisted me in these processes, which sometimes were quite difficult. Another scene, which is not pictured here, it would absolutely put me through some things. I mean, I had to illustrate a anti-Semitic scene that Eddie experienced as a child. And I really didn't know what to do, how to approach this difficult topic, especially for a kid's book. I had to do some more research. I dug into Edie's childhood. It was there that I came across the fact that her family owned the candy ice cream store, and which many people avoided because of who they were. I had to draw that scene several times to get it to the final. It was important to not overdo it, to passively apply a visual that wasn't too harsh. Because again, this is a children's picture book. Yes, discrimination is horrible, but I think we can still be gentle in getting the message across, especially when it comes to young readers. One of the things I want the reader to experience when they read this book, you know, Edie has this quote that I love. She says, "Don't postpone joy, keep it hot." She went through so much in her long life, from anti-Semitism to misogyny in the workplace to homophobia. But through all that, she made sure she found her joy. She created her joy. And I wanted the illustrations to reflect that. And the only way I know how is by using these vibrant, bright colors depicting Edie's happiness through images. In addition, exhibiting the love that Edie and Thea had throughout the years. Yes, this book is about a tax bill and a historic court case, but it's also about how strong and resilient and fearless and fierce Edie was at the young age of 80. Equally important, how she fought for the love she had for Thea, a woman who was her partner for 40 years. And she continued to fight for that love even when Thea passed on. So it is my hope that this book reflects that love, that joy that they so much cherished. I mean, isn't that what it's all about? You know, finding that joy and doing whatever it takes to keep it going. So if you haven't already, please pre-order this lovely book and follow me for more updates. I thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Lee and Low Books.
Thank you, Cheryl, for that amazing presentation. We are so excited for Edie and can't wait for next year. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Kwam. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the marketing coordinator here at Lee and Low Books. I am a light-skinned Arab woman with long, wavy brown hair. I am wearing a floral yellow jumpsuit, glasses, hoop earrings, and a necklace. In my background is a table, a white window, a white wall and a window. I'm excited to kick off the next section of our showcase, starting with a smashing nonfiction middle grade about your favorite prehistoric creatures. Author Cindy Jensen Elliott and illustrator Theo Nicole Lorenz come together for The Doomsday Detectives, how Walter and Luis Alvarez solved the mystery of dinosaur extinction. Cretaceous Earth was known as the age of dinosaurs, but really it was the age of life. Scaled and feathered, furry and leathered, budding, blooming, roaring, zooming, buzzing, glorious life until doomsday. For 66 million years, the mystery of what happened to the dinosaurs lay hidden under layers of sand and silt until scientists began to piece together the puzzle of what happened on the last day of the ancient world. Readers will follow the real-life adventures of father-son scientists Luis and Walter Alvarez, along with an army of science detectives as they unlock the world's most intriguing mystery. This hybrid nonfiction combines graphic novel elements with narrative nonfiction and is accompanied by many historical photographs and illustrations. Exhaustively researched and presented in a fun, digestible format, The Doomsday Detectives is perfect as a primary or supplementary text on the subject of the extinction of the dinosaurs. What is the biggest thing author Cindy Jensen Elliott wants readers to take away from the book? She said, "The most important message of The Doomsday Detectives is that the mysteries of the world we live in can only be solved through the collective and cumulative efforts of many diverse people over long periods of time. And the more people decide to go into science, the richer our understandings will be. Like art, the process of doing science and the data collected are marks we make on the world, a gift for the next generation. And the broader and more diverse the science community is, the richer our contribution will be to the collective understanding of the world." The Doomsday Detectives crashes onto shelves March 11th. Next up, by award-winning author Shamile Syed Mendez, is The Real Wish, and its simultaneously pubbing Spanish edition, El Deseo de mi Corazón. Ballet is Florencia de Lago's entire world. After years of hard work, she is chosen as Clara in the winter production of The Nutcracker. Not only is she the youngest dancer to receive such an honor, but also the first Latina. She's on track to be recruited by the best ballet companies. Unfortunately, she suffers a panic attack on opening night, on stage in front of everyone. And then Selena, Florencia's best friend, steps right into the role to replace her. Just like that, Florencia's whole world falls apart. The ballet studio expels her, and her best friend turns on her, tormenting her on social media and in real life. But even though the one thing she was driven toward has come to an end, therapy and family support help Florencia open up to new experiences. She notices people at school she'd never paid attention to before, and she even stumbles upon an Irish dance school and decides to give it a try. Can a new passion for Irish dance help Florencia find the joy of performing on the stage that she lost that fateful winter night? Throughout the book, Shamile masterfully highlights Latina participation in the ballet and Irish dance communities, where Latina kids can express themselves outside of any box or restrictions placed on them. She also dives into the importance of mental health by focusing on a protagonist who prioritizes her mental well-being to the benefit of her school and dance aspirations. Perfect for discussion in class or at home, The Real Wish and El Deseo de mi Corazón portray the realistic effects of bullying, both online and in real life, and the loss of a close friendship, showing readers the possibility of support and hope through new interests. Of this book, Shamile said, "I'm not exaggerating when I say I poured my whole heart into this story, and I'm so excited to share it with my readers." We hope you all are just as excited. Both editions dance onto shelves on April 22nd.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elise McMullen Chatty. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the senior editor of middle grade and young adult novels here at Lee and Low Books. I'm a middle-aged, light-skinned Indigenous woman with dark brown hair and turquoise eyes. I'm wearing a red shirt and white cardigan, and today I'm wearing red glasses. I'm so excited to share with you the historical middle grade novel Flying in Colors by Padma Prasad Radepa. In 1970s South India, in the state of Tamil Nadu, aunties tell 9-year-old Pavi that she's asking too many big women questions. But Pavi is tired of all the grown up secrets. She wants to know, and she's determined to find out, how we are born, how we die, and how we are remembered by those left behind. In the vein of Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, this book is divided into 11 gutsy episodes that follow Pavi as she searches for the answers. Through humor and authenticity, and rich with Tamil culture, this book deftly captures a child's perspective as she navigates family and traditions, as well as the healing and the challenges that come with finding the answers. We hope you enjoy this beautiful debut next spring. Let's head now from South India to South Texas to discover Lian Lo's Spanish edition of The Smell of Old Lady Perfume, or Olor a Perfume de Viejita. This is a classic middle grade novel from our Cinco Puntos imprint, written by Claudia Guadalupe Martinez. 11-year-old Shayla goes into her last year of elementary school with a lot of hope. But then her best friend leaves her for the cool girls, who seem to hate Shayla for no reason, and her dad is having health issues. She doesn't want to worry her dad with her troubles at school, so she finds the comfort she needs from spending time with him. He encourages her, gives her advice, and plays football with her. She also finds comfort in reading, getting lost in books' pages. It seems like Shayla has found a way through the curveballs, but then her dad passes away, and the family has to scramble to find new footing. Her grandmother comes to stay with her, and the smell of her perfume invades the house with her care. One of the most special things about this book is the beautiful example of a warm father-daughter relationship. The author draws upon her own childhood experiences to capture grief's depth in simple yet poetic and vivid language that is perfectly approachable for middle grade readers. Readers will also appreciate seeing represented the challenges of growing up in a Spanish-speaking household and feeling insecure and sometimes teased about their English, even within a largely Mexican community in a Texas border town. This is authentically captured through the Spanish translation of the book, which was created by a fellow fronterismo, Luis Humberto Crosthwaite, who made the Spanish true to what is spoken in the region. So anyone who wants to get to know a curious, intelligent, hopeful young girl, a caring and supportive father, and a grandmother with a penchant for perfume, pick up your copy of Olor a Perfume de Viejita when it comes back to our shelves next April. And over to you, Shaughnessy.
Hello again. Be sure to check out The Hero Twins and the Magic of Song when it publishes on October 29th. And hot on the heels of that release, we are bringing you the Spanish edition, Los Héroes Gemelos y la Magia de la Canción. This is the latest installment to our Indigenous graphic novel series, Tales of the Feathered Serpent, by David Bowles and illustrated by his daughter, Charlene Bowles. The two demigod twins are destined to rescue their father and uncle from the land of the dead, but it won't be easy. They'll have to use some trickster magic to survive their cruel half-brothers. This series is receiving lots of love from fellow Latine creators. Pedro Martin, award-winning author-illustrator of Mexikid, said, "This book has it all, magic, music, and mayhem." While New York Times bestselling author J.C. Cervantes called it immersive, magical, and undeniably clever. Author David Bowles stitched together tales from Maya, Aztec, and other ancient mythology for his YA novel, Tales of the Feathered Serpent. Now he has retold them in a series of standalone graphic novels, which he is also translating into Spanish himself. These tales are a little spooky, full of action and adventure, and feature complex characters that will always surprise you. Sharing Indigenous stories and bringing these sacred Maya and Aztec tales to new readers is important, and teachers will love using these well-researched introductions to Indigenous pre-Columbian tales in their middle school classrooms.
We're very proud to also have a contemporary Indigenous story of Tzotzil Maya people to share this coming spring. Cuando una mujer se levanta by Christine Eber is the new Spanish translation of the gripping young adult novel When a Woman Rises. When Veronica asks her mother, Magdalena, to share a story for the nonprofit she works for, Magdalena speaks of her childhood and her friendship with Lucia. She tells Veronica about how, as children, they snuck away to get more education than what girls were usually allowed. She reveals how, as teenagers, they learned to make and practice crafts that would give them their livelihoods. And then how Magdalena married a kind man, while Lucia was driven away by the pain she felt being so different from their community. As Magdalena reveals all to her daughter, readers witness the beauty of a mother passing down the stories of her hopes and dreams, the traditions and expectations that shaped her life, and the challenges she and her community have endured. Though only one generation apart, Veronica is often surprised by how things were, highlighting the importance of storytelling and how powerful a voice can be. All three women in this story, Magdalena, Veronica, and Lucia, face issues where traditional gender roles push them into difficult situations. But through support from their loved ones or simply bold defiance, each woman finds a way to remain true to herself. Eber has been deeply involved in the Tzotzil Maya community for over 40 years, beginning in the 80s when she lived with a family in Chiapas during her PhD research. Since then, she continues to uplift the work of Tzotzil Maya weavers through a nonprofit named Weavers for Justice. It was the one thing that they asked her to do after she had spent time with them. Her knowledge and respect are evident down to the details, like the spelling of Tzotzil with an S, which progressive Maya groups have chosen as a rejection of the colonial Spanish spelling more often seen. This is the first time this book has been sold in Spanish and enjoyed in Spanish by the broader audience outside of the Maya community. Cuando una mujer se levanta will be back on shelves April 8th.
Lee and Low is proud to bring this stunning coming-of-age duology from Cinco Puntos Press into the fold. This Thing Called the Future by J.L. Powers is the story of Kosi, a teen living in post-apartheid South Africa. In the town where she lives, someone seems to be dying from disease every day. When her mother becomes sick, Kosi must navigate traditional and Western medicine within her Zulu community. Although medicine has reduced the HIV/AIDS crisis within Africa, this book opens conversation around how a community is affected by and deals with disease. Underwater revisits Kosi's story as she takes on caring for her sister, making a living as a traditional healer, and finishing school. When xenophobia against a wave of new immigrants and taxi wars bring political turmoil and violence to her town, can Kosi keep it all together in the midst of responsibility and conflict? This Thing Called the Future received a starred review from Bulletin and was named a best book by Yalsa, Bankstreet, and Kirkus. And next up, I'm thrilled to introduce educator, historian, and artist Kim Topping. As the founder of Lavender Education, they lead a national program that celebrates LGBTQIA+ history through arts and education. They currently serve as a lecturer on education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, specializing in gender and sexuality studies. Illustrated by Anshika Kular, Generation Queer is Kim's debut book and the first collection of biographies about LGBTQIA+ youth activists. In these stories, you will meet 30 young trailblazers from across the full queer spectrum, including the first transgender athlete to compete in Division I sports and a young leader who brought Black transgender representation to people's television screens. This book will be available May 27th. And Kim, thank you so much for joining us. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the whole Lee and Low team for this opportunity. My name is Kim. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am a white non-binary person with medium-length brown hair and blue eyes. Today I'm wearing a brown button-up shirt, a gold necklace, and there's a beige wall and door behind me. I'm so grateful and honored to have this opportunity to talk about Generation Queer. As you mentioned, Shaughnessy, this is my debut book, and it's a project that I've been working on for over 5 years with about 50 interviews with youth activists from all around the country. So I'm extremely proud to make this resource available to young people. And the book really highlights the power of youth leadership and puts it at the center of social justice movements, especially leadership that's intersectional and that values collaboration across movements, across generations, and all kinds of organizing strategies. So right now on the screen, there's some illustrations of young people who are featured in the book, and I'll just talk about a few of them, but I also wanted to mention that one of the key themes in the interviews was about this term activist. Originally, the subtitle of the book was 30 Youth Activists. And that changed, and the whole thematic approach of the book kind of changed because many of them were labeled activists without them claiming that title for themselves. They experienced discrimination or harassment, and they had to do something. They had to act. And in most cases, they just felt like, I'm doing what I need to do to advocate for myself and for my community, for others. And that doesn't deserve a title. It's really just about being a good person. So that was a really powerful conversation that I had with so many of the young organizers. So the book became about the way that they organize, and it's organized in 3 different sections. So there's organizers, artists, and educators. So Trinity Neal, you might recognize her in the bottom right. She's the co-author of My Rainbow, which is a book that she wrote with her mom, Deshauna Neal. And it celebrates hair, it celebrates identity, family, love, and it's a beautifully illustrated book. And she also talks openly about her experiences. Gavin Grimm, in the top right, he asked his school to simply use the boys' bathroom. He's a trans boy, now a trans man. And they first said yes, and then there were complaints from local parents, community members, and that led to a school board vote that prevented Gavin from simply using the bathroom. So he took his case all the way to the Supreme Court and eventually won, although it took 6 years. And he worked with the ACLU and many other organizations to fight that case and also to raise awareness about the importance of access to education for trans youth. And then finally, I'll mention one more here. Meg Lee is a trans non-binary Asian American artist. You might recognize their Protect Trans Kids shirts. I love when I see educators wearing these in schools. It's such a positive message. And they create art that's affirming and celebratory of trans people and self-love. So coming to this book, creating this book has been kind of a lifelong process. I came out when I was really young, when I was about 12 years old, and I had some challenging experiences around that. Also some great celebratory experiences with supportive people in my life, like my friend Annie, who's in that photo there. But the biggest gap was that I couldn't find any history of the LGBTQIA+ community, and I couldn't find adults or peers who were LGBTQIA+. It was very few and far between, so I felt very isolated. And it wasn't until high school when I finally tried to find something. I found one sentence in a textbook about the 1960s that talked about the Stonewall Inn riots of 1969. And then years later, I learned more about that history. And there's a photo here of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. And sometimes what's left out of that story of Stonewall is that Marsha P. Johnson was 23 and Sylvia Rivera was 17. So they were young, they were youth activists, and they were at the forefront of queer and trans liberation. So the book also includes a lot of historical information about the movement, how it came to be, some of the riots that led to the movement for liberation today, as well as educational organizers and artists as organizers. So one other thing I'll share here is that my work has been as a youth worker, an organizer, an educator, and this book, the vision of it is for it to be a resource for youth and for educators. So this picture here on the right is from it's a photo from the March for Queer and Trans Youth Autonomy last spring in DC. Queer Youth Assemble organized protests in every state in the country and in DC, and they were all youth-led and organized. So there's a chapter in the book about Queer Youth Assemble, their organizing strategies, and how they brought youth together and shared their voices. And then there's also some photos here of professional development workshops, GSA leadership retreats, opportunities for LGBTQ youth leaders to build their skills. So again, there's lots of resources, organizations, skill building in the book that I hope will really benefit educators and students. And then finally, I just want to share about 3 more themes that came up in the interviews. The first one is about possibility models. So this is a term that Laverne Cox uses in place of role model. And it's about showing us that people with similar identities, experiences, that they can thrive and have full lives and achieve their goals. And so I asked all of the youth to talk about who their possibility models are, who their mentors are, and what this concept really means to them, because being in a book like this also places them as a possibility model, and that young people will be kind of looking to them as inspiration. And so Jess talks here about the ways that we can sometimes internalize those negative messages, and she encourages young people to counter that and to really believe in themselves. And with so much anti-LGBTQ legislation and messaging right now and through the whole process of writing this book, I really wanted to counter that with a book that centers optimism and possibility and shining a light on the bright spots. And then the second theme is around celebrating joy, which is very much connected. Every biography in the book ends with joy. It ends with something that brings that young person joy and celebration and self-care. So Mari here is talking about someone who got them an ornament with their chosen name on it. And just that very simple gesture was so meaningful for them. And then Faith here talks about writing and poetry and reading, and that reading books with asexual and aromantic characters has been really meaningful for them and has helped them to connect with their own identity and feel really good about their own identity and experience. And then finally, another major theme of the book is around having a growth mindset and building collective power. So Soma here, who's an Indigenous queer organizer, they talk about a vision for the future that involves both collective power and normalizing change and making mistakes and meeting people where they're at, and building relationships. And I'll just read this quote on the top here as a way of closing. So Soma says, I feel like it's so important for us all to keep imagining this collective future together. Liberation will only happen if we bring everyone with us, even those people that think of themselves as separate from us. So thank you all so much for listening. I hope you'll read Generation Queer and share it with the young people in your lives. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or at my website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. And that wraps up our Spring 2025 showcase. Many thanks to my presenter colleagues and of course our creators, Cheryl and Kim. Before we leave today, let's take a moment to acknowledge that we are in the midst of Banned Books Week. As we know, efforts to restrict the availability of books featuring Black, queer, and other underrepresented folks are at an all-time high. And another major impact of book bans that we often don't talk about is the chilling effect, or the self-censoring that results when librarians and teachers have to worry about acquiring diverse titles, even when they know the books would help their students or patrons. And all of this disproportionately impacts indie presses like Lee and Low, who focus on publishing voices from marginalized communities. School and library sales drop, impacting creators financially and emotionally. In response, the Independent Book Publishers Association and Every Library Institute have teamed up. For every book banned or challenged this month, We Are Stronger Than Censorship will buy 2 or more books from independent publishers and donate them via regional Freedom to Read organizations. Lee and Low is proud to partner with We Are Stronger Than Censorship, and our title, When Aiden Became a Brother, from Kyle Lukoff and Akelani Juanita, will be one of their 20 titles featured, purchased, and distributed through the program. If you are advocating for books in the face of censorship where you live or work, we hope you will report it with ALA or PEN America. There are book resumes readily available on Unite Against Book Bans Book Resumes Hub. The URL is on the screen. It's bookresumes.uniteagainstbookbans.org. And each resume details the book's significance and educational value, so it's easy to share with administrators, elected officials, or board members. We're incredibly grateful to everyone out there defending our freedom to read freely. And it's time to say goodbye, but keep up with Lee and Low on your favorite social media platforms, including TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Thanks so much and take care of yourselves.